Welcome back, heroes, to the second installment of the Ballad of Nickolas Oscar. We left off with Oscar being appointed the warden of the healing church of Vargric, and with it, helping put the country back on its feet. Years pass, as this was no easy task. However, everything was turned on its head one faithful day. Let's continue. The High Priestess ordered a priestess in training to do something momentous. A ceremony of sealing had to be done, and the High Priestess had tasked her to do it. Oscar and his men were ordered to attend and provide security. The ceremony was supposed to be simple. It was done countless times before. There was a gate to the other world, the realm of the dead, which was opened eons ago by a powerful demon. The demon was thwarted by heroes of legend, sealing it into a large sword. The heroes then used the sword to stitch the gate shut. Every so often, priestesses of the church would go to the sword to perform the sealing ritual. The heroes then used the sword to stitch the gate shut. Every so often, priestesses of the church would go to the sword to perform the sealing ritual, resealing the beast in the blade and maintaining the gate to be closed. This time it was time to perform the ritual again. However, it was not that simple. Once at the gates of the other world ready to perform the ritual, Oscar and the priestess were attacked. The lord of the other world and the god of the dead, Takai, and his minions erupted out of the dark. Oscar ordered his men to defend the priestess. He was without a weapon. It was at that moment that he made the harshest decision of his life. Oscar picked up the sealing sword. The ward on the sword had been severely diminished, and upon the warden's touch, the beast of the blade infected his mind, possessing him and throwing him into a blind rage, forcing him to fight anything that was in sight. The door to the gate shut in an instant, locking the priestess and half of the church's forces out. However, many of Oscar's men were trapped in the other world with Oscar. Oscar fought for control of his mind against the beast, and in the spats that he won, he managed to gather his men, and with the priestess's help from the outside, most of them escaped. However, the sword was bound to the warden. He could not abandon it. The beast spoke to him. It would tell him to set him free, let go of his humanity, and allow it to consume him. Oscar fought the monster in his head every waking moment of the day. He couldn't continue his job as warden. Marceline and other high-ranking officials began carrying his weight. The hallucinations made by the blade engulfed his everyday life. It took an immense amount of fortitude to function as a regular human being, much less the warden of the healing church of Vargric. The beast told him to submit, to be consumed, to set it free, all hours of the day and night. The beast spoke to Oscar. It drove Oscar mad. The only reprieve he experienced was when the beast decided to quit, and those times were few and far between. One day Oscar shouted at the beast. It wasn't the first time that he had yelled at the monster. However, it was the first time that the monster answered. He asked what it wanted, and it replied with its own question.
What is it you seek, Nickolas Oscar?
The beast's voice was monstrous and ravenous in the warden's mind. To be rid of you, the warden replied.
No, Nickolas Oscar, that is not what you seek. What is it that you really seek?
The beast replied again. Oscar thought on that for a long time. The beast waited patiently. Oscar did not know what he wanted. He had a nice life now. Being the warden of the church was fulfilling. He had a lover. He had no want in the world. But then it struck him, like wool being taken away from his eyes. Revenge. Oscar wanted revenge for the shame that Penthos brought him in his country. He wanted Vargric to be restored to its former glory. He wanted the children of the country to be proud to walk its streets. Vargric was indeed in a better place than it was after Skald's death, but it was nothing like when Oscar was a boy. Without answering the beast, the monster spoke to the warden again.
Yes, that is what you seek.
What of it?
I can assist you. I can be your strength. I can be their reckoning.
And why would you do that? Why would you help me?
I propose a game.
Its voice was low and guttural. A game?
Yes, Nickolas Oscar, a game. You are a strong man. You have a solid mind and a strong soul. I think you would entertain me. The rules will be simple. You will use this blade in battle. Bring me bloodshed. I will augment your strength and combat prowess. Your enemies will cower at your feet. They will be crushed under this blade.
Images of fallen Penthos soldiers flashed in Oscar's mind. Massive hordes of bodies littered the floor. The sword was in his hands, drenched in blood and entrails. What's the catch, beast? Oscar muttered aloud. The beast cackled.
Your mind is my playground. If you survive using my power, you may use it. Call upon me whenever you see fit. However, if you falter, I will consume
smile cracked across Oscar's face, a broad and toothy smile. "You're on, beast. Let your game begin." The beast cackled once more.
Yes, oh bearer mine, let our game begin.
The next day, Oscar resigned from the church. He could continue this path no longer, not while dealing with a monster. He simply told the church that his time had come to move on and do other things. They held a grand tournament to celebrate the warden's success and to find a successor. The successor was placed in an aspiring hero, Navi. Oscar founded a new group, the Vargric Order, a military force that would bring the fight to Penthos once more, regain the lost land, and preserve it. Marceline and other subordinates of Oscar left the church as well, following their new commander. They flew under a new flag, a flag similar to the old Vargric army flag. However, this one included Oscar's new partner. They took to calling the blade Stitches. The beast remained unnamed. Sometime later, the beast informed Oscar of another relic that was lost to the other world. An old skull that the beast used to adorn on its head. The beast enticed Oscar, telling him that it would double down on their game. The skull would allow Oscar to see the world as the beast does, further enhancing his power and prowess, however also increasing its influence over him, making it harder to come back to reality. Oscar took the beast's offer. They had decided that anything that could bring him more power to thwart Penthos would be well worth the risk. Oscar led his order into the dark realms of the otherworld, fought off Takai's minions once more, and regained the beast's skull. With the skull and Stitches, the order quickly rose to power. Their influence became sizable in Vargric. They were almost ready to march towards the border of Penthos. However, they hit an obstacle. One day, upon rising from his sleep, Oscar looked into the mirror, and his face was hairier than usual. His ears were more pointed, and his teeth were becoming fangs. He was becoming a monster. The influence of the beast had not taken his mind, but was affecting his person, turning him into more of a creature than man. Regret washed over him. His appearance was a shocking reminder of what he was doing. He was not becoming a beastkin. He was dealing with a monster and becoming one himself, and worst of all, he was bringing everyone he loved along for the ride. Every swing of the sword weighed on his conscience. He felt himself slowly slipping away, and his physical appearance was proof enough that this game had gone on too long. Oscar commissioned a famed blacksmith to create something magical and magnificent. A sealing scabbard. Something that could stop the beast's influence on a daily basis, and hopefully circumvent any further corruption of his body and soul. Heroes were paid handsomely to gather items needed to forge this scabbard, and the creation process was a success. Stitches was placed in a large coffin made with powerful fey and druidic magic. The physical effects of the influence did not go away, however, but they did come to a screeching halt. Oscar was able to think clearly again, as a regular man and not as a monster. However, one night before bed he heard the beast speak. Since the commission of the scabbard had been complete, the beast had been silent. This night was different. The beast pled, something that Oscar had never heard before. The beast wasn't talking to Oscar, but was speaking out loud, as if it was dreaming. The beast pleaded to an unknown being, who it referred to as his lady, asking where she had gone, and asking for her to come back. The beast's voice was whimpering, beseeching, and crying. Oscar had attempted to speak to the beast, but it abruptly stopped and did not speak for the rest of the night. As if a stroke of fate, the next day a scout reported to the commander. A temple had been found in the ruins upon a recent landslide. Upon further inspection, the temple was related to the beast that was sealed inside the sword Stitches, and apparently a resting place for the beast's owner, the Crimson Witch. Oscar and the other heroes rendezvoused at the temple. There was a heavy miasma infecting the ruin, allowing mortals to only walk into the temple for a short duration before losing consciousness. In their time, they managed to decipher inscriptions on the wall that spoke of the beast and his witch. The beast's name was Forfeit, and he was a familiar of the Crimson Witch, and according to the inscriptions on the wall, they were heroes at one point. The witch commanded the wolf beast Forfeit to slay monsters that plagued society, and once the monsters were slain, she would lull the beast to sleep. Until one day, they went sick with power. They marched against the church. They were captured by a vicar of the church, and the witch was kept sealed in the temple for all eternity, while the wolf beast Forfeit was sealed away into Stitches. Upon discovering this, Oscar began investigating old scripts and archives, but found nothing of this witch or even the vicar of the church. However, Oscar was enthralled by this witch. If he could find her, and he could somehow convince her to lull the beast to sleep, he could be rid of this game. He would no longer have the mental exhaustion of attempting to fight off the beast every time that he fought. He needed to find the witch and save himself. Adventurer parties were sent in to do further exploring, but came to a door that was chained shut. The chain had a powerful spell on it, and it couldn't be destroyed with any known magic. It would break any weapons that touched it and burn the skin of anyone who grasped it. They were at an impasse. Oscar rallied troops and heroes alike. He would do anything that he can to get into this dungeon. He had to be rid of this cursed sword and the beast that plagued his mind. And that, heroes, will do it for our second installment of the Ballad of Nickolas Oscar. Be sure to comment what you thought of our story and what you think will happen next. Until our next one, we'll see you on the field of battle. Take care.